Well, I have found that people make a lot of assumptions about what homeschooling must look like for our family because I am a homeschooling coach. And so I thought today I would give you guys a little metaphorical glimpse behind the curtain and tell you a little bit about what my kids have been up to this summer. What does it look like to be the kid of a homeschool coach over the summer? So here's some of the things that my kids have done. One did a summer stock show with the musical theater group that my kids both participate in during the summer, or during the school year, I should say. That was like a month-long thing, and it didn't take a whole lot of time. I had to do a volunteer position, which I always do, so I led props for the first time, which was super fun. But that was totally, of course, her choice. I didn't tell her she had to go do that. That was something she wanted to do. Both my girls went on trips. One went on a trip with a friend, and one is currently on a trip in Alaska, lucky girl, with a bunch of youth from our church. They went up there to work at a camp for kids in the foster system. And so she raised the money for that. She designed t-shirts and sold those, and did some work at the church with some other kids to help raise money for that. And so that was paid for by fundraising, and she went and did that. Obviously, that was also not something I told her she had to do. She begged to be able to go, and we said, okay, we'll see what we can do to make it work. They both worked for grandma and grandpa because my parents, who live 2 blocks away, are actually downsizing and moving next week. And so they spent some time packing and unpacking and helping my parents with decluttering and purging stuff and cleaning up things. So they put in some work. And again, that was not something I required. My grandparents pay, or their grandparents pay very well. So they were very motivated to help with that. One of them did a lemonade stand. And she kind of decided to branch out a little bit. Instead of doing the standard lemonade thing, she bought, you know, those little packs of like flavored, like you can do like Kool-Aid or lemonade, all these different things, and you put them into a water bottle. So she mixed up a whole bunch of water bottles with all of these different flavors and then went on the corner down this street from our house and sold those and made a pretty penny. They've played a lot of video games. They both play a lot of video games online with their cousins and with their friends. There's this really cool app that you can do in texting called Game Pigeon. And my older daughter, has a shockingly good record at 8-ball. I don't know how she's so good at that, but she seems to get the physics and the geometry of it very, very well. So they've played a lot of video games. They have done a ton of hanging out with friends. And they've spent some time volunteering at church. One volunteers in the nursery and has been dragging me along over the summer. It's been super fun to hold babies again. And the other one volunteers on the worship team with the youth ministry. So that's pretty much it. They've done some swimming at my mom's house and at some friends' houses. But yeah, that's it, you guys. We don't do school over the summer. We don't require that they read. We don't make them get up at any particular time. They both need a lot of sleep, and they both have really wonky schedules, as is normal for teenagers quite often. We absolutely indulge that. I let them sleep as much as they need to sleep. They do have chores. That's not different from, the rest of the school year. That's something that we carry on all the time. So they have things that they have to do around the house. But the important thing that I want you to note is that none of this, any of this, has been something that I have required or that I have directed. I'm a facilitator. That is what I do for my kids in the summer. I facilitate when they really need me to facilitate. I don't come alongside and say, so how can I help you today? I've got my own stuff to do. And then particularly at the ages that they are now, 13 and 15, they're more than adequately skilled to do the vast majority of what they want to do. The main thing they can't do is get themselves places, right? So I do play a fair amount of taxi, but I don't drop everything, just because they say, hey, can you take me somewhere? They need to wait. They need to schedule it. I always tell them I am not a day of person. If you're going to want to go to someone's house, you're going to have to tell me the day before so I can make sure that my schedule is going to work and I'm not coaching somebody or, leading a training or something. But the main thing that I have found that people assume is that we must be doing all sorts of academics. We're year-round schoolers, and you know that my kids spend all the time, their extra time reading and like writing essays. No, y'all, not at all, not at all. And I'm okay with that. Now, what did my summers look like when I was a kid? Nothing like this. I was the voracious reader and writer. That was how I spent my summers all the time, reading, writing, and swimming. That was pretty much all I did every summer long. And do I sometimes wish that my kids were wired more like I am? Yes, I sometimes do. I kind of wish that my kids enjoyed books as much as I do. They're just not wired that way. That's not who they are. And the last thing I'm going to do is spend my summer trying to hammer them into a hole, doing things that I think are important when they need to learn how to manage their own time, how to fill their own time, how to pursue things that are going to be worth their while, worth their time, and letting them discover the things that interest them. And me coming alongside them or lording over them and saying, this is what you're going to do all summer long, that's just not going to work for any of us. So if you had, kind of these grand ideas of what it must mean to be a homeschool kid over the summer and all of the super educational things that we must do, that's not really how I view education. And that's not how I view summer break. And we do take a summer break. The reason I personally, again, kind of wish my kids were wired the way that I'm wired and wanted to do year-round school. If I was a more dictator type parent, I would say we are going to school all year long because that kind of makes sense to me. But my kids have always had a lot of friends who are public schooled. And so we have always tended to kind of follow the public school system so that when those kids had days off and my kids could get together with them, they would, because otherwise they don't get to see those friends a whole lot because they're in school all the time. So we have always taken a summer break. We've never done the year-round thing. And I'm okay with that. Because there are times, and you're going to find this too, those of you who are new to homeschooling maybe and are maybe looking at this first year, getting ready to start, you're going to find that you have lots of ideas of what you think homeschooling should look like. And some of those things are going to be rooted very deeply in your values and in your philosophy about education. Others are going to be rooted just in, well, they're not going to be very deep roots. It's going to be more that they're influenced by what you see other people doing and just kind of this vague sense of, well, that's just the way that we should do it, right? And you will find the further on you go, both in homeschooling and in parenting, that you will realize you face lots of hills every day, and you need to decide which ones you're going to die on, right? Which ones are worth planting your flag and saying, we will do things this way. One of the flags that I have planted is that we will not massively overschedule our kids. And so they sometimes ask, well, can I do this on Monday, this on Tuesday, this on Wednesday, this on all sorts of stuff. There are times that I'll say, no, sorry, you've got to pull back a little bit. Like, this is way too much. I need you to take some downtime. I know that you need downtime. I know that you need downtime. You just don't want to take it. But I don't want to deal with the fallout. And quite frankly, I don't want to spend my whole week driving either. So pick like 3 of those things, and maybe next week we can do some of those other things. But it also has been very much a value that I am not going to impose a crazy schedule on my kids. So I'm not going to say you will learn over the summer when our school year tends to be pretty full and we all really need a break. I don't want to do that to myself, and I don't want to do that to them. And one of the other hills that I have kind of planted my flag in and said, this is a hill I will die on, is that I believe my kids need autonomy and they need the space to be bored. And if you saw my video from last week, you'll know that's something that I feel really strongly about, that kids need boredom. They need big unstructured spaces of time, which is another reason why I don't want my kids scheduling something every single day with a million things going on. They need the downtime. They need the absence of stimulation, right? And that is something I feel very strongly about because mental health is very important to me. And I know my kids well enough to know that they will go and go and go and go and go without paying attention to the toll that it is taking on them mentally until it's too late, and then we're dealing with the fallout of that. And so I am willing to say, nope, we're not going to do stuff this week. or nope, we're not going to do stuff today because everybody needs a break. And I'm trying to show them, trying to instill in them that understanding that breaks are necessary and downtime is necessary. So I try to facilitate that during the summer by not being the mom that's making my kids do a million things, and then also by giving them the space and facilitating when I can the things that they want to do and the things that they come up with to do, the ideas that they come up with, the plans and the schemes and the hey, what if I try this kind of stuff. I want them to dream. I want them to be creative. And so I facilitate that, but I don't come alongside them and say, go do this, go do this. Oh, you're bored? Go here, 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 here. So that is what it's like to be this homeschool coach's kid anyway. Would love to hear what summers are like for your family. And hey, if you are a year-round schooler, that's great. This is not about me saying, well, because I'm the homeschool coach, you really should be doing it my way. No, anybody who's done coaching with me knows that that I never say, well, this is what you should do because this is what I would do. It is not about what my homeschool looks like. It's about helping you figure out what your homeschool should look like, right? So I would love to hear, what does summer look like for you? What are the hills that you are willing to plant your flag and die on as a parent during the summer? And what things are you willing to say, I'm just going to let this slide this time. So hope you guys are having a great summer. That's halfway over already. Crazy. And have a great weekend. And I will talk to you again next week. All right. See y'all later. Bye.